Thank you for joining us. Now, the Electoral Commission will today begin the task of reviewing petitions filed by the National Democratic Party, the Progressive People's Party, and now the People's National Convention. They follow suit, demanding the Commission give them a hearing and an opportunity to correct errors on their nomination form, which has caused their disqualification. Now, communication from the People's National Convention points to a window of opportunity to overturn the disqualification. Now, Bernard Mona.
This is more than a shocking decision from the Electoral Commission. If you take the Electoral Commission's own rules, when you submit your forms to the Electoral Commission will go through the forms with you, and if there are errors, they will give you some time within which you should correct the errors. And because if those errors are correctable, they are to be corrected. And the PNC, having submitted our forms on the 30th of this month, last month, we're hoping that the Electoral Commission, after getting the forms, all the parties there were any discoveries so that the parties can attend. Unfortunately, the Electoral Commission did not avail us that opportunity. So it is our hope that the Electoral Commission will respond to that. As we have decided as a party, we need to follow due process, and that is why when the Electoral Commission sent us their letter, we have responded to them, and we are hoping that they will come back to us so that we together can find a solution to this. These errors are replenished. Look, one member of ours, who is also a member of IPAC, on one of the forms, on the pages, actually was the one who endorsed the form. Do you know what happened? It's strange that in signing the forms, he signed 3 others, and the 4th one he did sign. That is what the Electoral Commission did. And these things happen to all of us. You have a plethora of papers to sign. And so when he was signing, he signed 1, 3, and thought that he had signed all the 4. So if you go and a quadruplicate document and you find errors in one of them, it's possible that it did not replicate in all the others. Why is it that you are not taking the others and you just took the one that had some few errors, and then you are using that? So we think that we have good enough basis to make a case, and we are hoping that the Electoral Commission will meet with us later.
Do you mean the EC does not see any merit in your discussions with them and maintain their decision that you ought to be out of this year's presidential elections? What then would the PNC do?
The PNC is a party of due process, and we have taken the administrative process. I'm sure that when we exhaust that process, after 48 hours, we are expecting a response from the Electoral Commission. If we don't get a response, we may institute other legitimate means of ensuring that we get our presidential candidate on the ballot. We are convinced that we have good enough grounding to get back on.
Well, the PNC issued a statement today asking members to keep calm as they explore avenues available to them to overturn the decision by the EC to disqualify their presidential aspirant, Dr. Edward Mahama. The party is hoping that once they're able to have those further discussions with the Commission and deal with their petition, the issues will be resolved. But still with that, yesterday the Commission stated that the disqualification action is based on law.
It's in the law. Some have started talking with us, some have had lawyers write to us, but really it's a matter of people's rights and how they want to enforce it. It's not for us to make that determination. What happens in court depends on how quickly the court disposes of the case. It depends on the kind of case that comes. The candidates that their nominations were rejected, it was rejected for different grounds. So they all do not have the same kind of, they would not be going to court, I don't presume, in a group. It's going to be individual cases. And depending on how the judges will deal with it, we'll have to take it as it comes and we'll take a decision when we get there. One voter cannot endorse more than one candidate. That is the law. The parliament that we all voted into parliament passed that law. We work with that law. Political parties have access to the register. The candidates want the register, they have access to the register to do their own checks. If someone wants to be president of this country and you take nomination forms that have certain legal requirements following that form, it is up to you and your own responsibility to make sure that what you submit meets the requirements of the law. Nobody appears on the register twice, so it is impossible for anyone to endorse someone twice. In any case, this was time for you guys to understand the reforms and the laws and the processes. If you want to focus the entire time with the commissioners on the disqualification process, I think there's been...
Well, the NPP's Legal and Constitution Committee Chairman, Professor Mike Okwe, is concerned that the threat of legal action could affect the electoral calendar.
The Electoral Commission at the trial, the famous trial, spoke of administrative errors on their part, and they expected nothing to be done to them. These are very interesting developments, and all these matters that I personally would love to see adjudicated upon.
This litigation has the tendency of dragging the election. Maybe December 7 elections would have to be, pushed forward.
The consequences if we go backwards. After 6th of January, the president at this time will become functus officio. He'll be out of office by a fraction of legal time. He's no more president. The vice president is no more vice president. The parliament itself is dissolved. The speaker is no more. The only person who will be the chief justice. And then, of course, the armed forces, and then the civil service of Ghana. So I only trust that the judges, if there is any litigation, will move expeditiously, which they are capable of doing. So
Professor Mike Okwe Sr. Well, how concerned should election stakeholders such as political parties, the electorate and observers as a whole be about the potential legal challenges? Let's speak to Senior Research Fellow with CDD Ghana, Dr. Kojo Asante, who joins us this afternoon on Election Brief. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Asante.
Good afternoon, Jifa.
So is there potential fear of the electoral calendar being affected?
Oh, yeah, certainly. I think in terms of the timetable, the latest that you can still keep the nomination period open, I think will be November 6th, if my calculations are correct. But, if you think that you have to wait till that happens and then you need to put people on the ballot box, on the ballot papers, and depending on the numbers and so on, that's still a logistical nightmare that nobody wants to deal with. So there are consequences. The Electoral Commission will know better in terms of their scenarios. If this was to go to court, how long it would take for the court to resolve kinds of.
If you can just speak up a little bit, Dr. Asante. So for you, it's about the consequences that may emerge, and the EC should be aware of that. You're a lawyer. What's the best approach to deal with the concerns of these disqualified aspirants?
Well, I think, first of all, we all have to affirm the principle that these rules are there for a reason, and anybody who wants to stand for public office, particularly presidential office, has to make sure that they comply with this because they are for a good reason. So it's important that the EC does this job. But I think in doing that, this is the first time that they have really taken this serious. And since a lot of people have been caught, just not really applying the right kind of diligence, I would say that they should just appeal to the EC. For the instances where it might involve clerical errors or administrative errors, some of them is much more difficult, particularly when it pertains to issues of fraud. Either somebody signing different signatures. That I think, and you struggle to get in sympathy for those kinds of candidates. So I think generally the first principle will be to go and appeal and expect that the EC would reconsider or look into the case again and that might be a quicker way of dealing with it.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. And that's Dr. Kojo Asante. He's a senior research fellow with CDD Ghana. And it's still election brief here on the Joy News channel on Multi TV. Now, the membership of the Association of Ghana Industries will be seeking answers from the new patriotic party over how it will implement its manifesto proposals for industry and businesses if it's elected into office. Now, this afternoon, as part of his Greater Accra campaign tour, Nana Akufo-Addo and other leading NPP members like Alan Kojo Tremantin will be meeting with the AGI. I understand that meeting is currently all ongoing, but earlier, I called up the president of the AGI, James Ajay, and asked him if they had reviewed the NPP's manifesto relating to industry and business.
At the manifesto and areas related to industry, but we are very much concerned about how these things, but these are laudable sort of intentions, but the point is that how are they going to be done? And what are the commitments, that will be given in terms of their delivery? So that is why we are engaging the main or the major political parties. We have been doing these things in the past. And we think that in going forward, it is very important that we are very clear of how such political parties who are looking to receiving the mandate of the people of Ghana will implement policies, laudable policies that have been put in their manifestos.
President of AGI, James Ajay, and Nana Akufo-Addo, the NPP flag bearer, has made his presentation to the Association of Ghana Industries. And currently speaking now is Alan Kojo Tremantin, who is part of the campaign team. And let's go live to that event.
Details, but you take it for granted that that one is a necessary condition for whatever we'll be talking about. Having said that, there are 4 key pillars for our industrial development strategy. Number 1, we're going to provide a comprehensive set of policy interventions that will support all levels of industrial activity, from micro enterprise to small to medium to large scale. No one is left out, because there will be no basis for leaving anybody out anyway. Even though I realize that many of you probably will fall into the medium to large scale component of what you do. I also am aware, because I've been associated with you for some time, that the Association of Small Scale Industries is very much part of what you do. So this set of policy interventions would apply, of course, with different levels of intensity to all enterprises along the chain. The first is to improve access to medium and long-term financing. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted if I talk about medium to long-term financing. It's not enough to talk about improving access to financing. I think what you as industrialists require very much is medium to long-term financing. And regrettably, if you look at the landscape of our financial institutions, almost every financial institution has turned itself into a commercial bank. And so by definition, you're looking at short tenor credit and financing instruments. 1 year maximum, maybe 3 years. In selected cases, you'll be looking at 5 years. But any serious industrialist who is doing a business plan, if you cannot project over a 7 to 10 year period, then I'm not sure whether you want to stay in business. So the gap in this country is provision or access to medium to long-term financing. And there are a number of things that we are proposing to do. First is we'll establish an industrial development fund, which would enable us support all critical industrial support interventions that we'll be talking about. So it's not just talking theory, but we'll back it with support. And when I talk about the Industrial Development Fund, it is not just referring to the financing component of it. I mean, all the work that we want to do to support industry, R&D, reducing the cost tax burden, all those things, it has to find itself from somewhere, not necessarily on the main capital budget. So the Industrial Development Fund is going to enable us support this. And since this is a more charitable forum, I know you will not be saying, but where are you going to get the money from? But we know where it's going to come from. First, part of it will come from government resources. I mean, whether it's NDC or NPP, if we can issue Euro bond for billions of dollars to support other things, why not to support industrial development, which will guarantee us the jobs? And that's what government is about. It's about. So government sources, very important. Secondly, because we are talking about supporting revenue-generating activity, we know that we will get the money back somewhere, somehow. So we are not bothered. We think that beyond what government contributes, we can attract significant amounts of private capital from all over the world, whether it's sovereign wealth funds or you're talking about private wealth funds. There's so much money floating around in the world that if you are able to target it appropriately, particularly if they recognize that it's for industrial development, which can earn a return, then the money will come. And so that's the second component of it. Now, apart from improving access to medium to long term through this, we would also recapitalize and restructure the operations of the NIB, the National Investment Bank, almost exclusively now to support industrial development. And I think Mr. Apiamenka is aware of why the NIB was set up originally. This is exactly what it's supposed to do. But somewhere along the line, for purposes of survival, they've also joined the bandwagon of commercial banks. And we have to understand and appreciate where they are coming from. But an MPP government will make sure that we bring it back in line with what its original mandate was for. And then thirdly, we're also going to support the private sector to be able to attract foreign direct investments and partner with local companies. Because whether we like it or not, everywhere in the world that there's been significant levels of industrial development, you always find that there's some kind of partnerships with foreign companies. Even in the United States, they are looking for foreign investment. So I don't think it's something that we should be shying away from. In fact, it may turn out to be a major source for this medium to long-term financing that we are looking for. And that is why, as part of our agenda, we're going to reinforce the mandate of the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, now to be looking for some of these strategic investors to come and partner.
And you're still here with us on Election Brief. And you know, one of the big concerns for this election is that people vote on issues? Well, education, health, and employment are the main issues of concern to Ghanaian voters for this year's elections. And those are the results of a research report dubbed Matters of Concern to the Ghanaian Voter. And the purpose of this NCCE research is to promote an issues-based campaign, ensure accountability, and equip voters with the information they need to make informed choices. Now, Raymond Akwa, my colleague, has been previewing the National Commission for Civic Education's report, and he joins us in the studio to tell us a little more about that. So how did they arrive at these three issues as the key issues for concern for voters? So
they basically sent questionnaires to all the 275 constituencies. All that they did was to ask them, after the constituency, some 7,435 people, from across the country in these constituencies, what do you think are the most important issues? Actually, they disaggregated it on the national level, these broad ones, and asked them specifically in your constituency, what do you think your parliamentary candidate or parliamentarian should do to these issues? And that's what brought about the main broad areas.
So it means that it's possible that having the national aggregation of education, health, and jobs as the main issues could actually be slightly different in various constituencies.
Actually, when you break it down, some 7 different constituencies actually had different thoughts on that. And across the region, it was only in the voter region where there was a difference in terms of the ranking of these issues, but still the 3 issues. It was in that area that health came actually ahead of employment. Employment rather came ahead of health in the second position.
And that's not all the report is talking about. It's also talking about the confidence levels in relation to Ghana's Electoral Commission. What does it say?
It says that 66.5%, almost 67%, believe that this Electoral Commission have actually trusted, they have confidence in the EC to conduct free, fair, and credible elections. And it moves on to say that the EC can be trusted, and as people with good reputation, good track record, and staff, about 64% believe that the staff of the EC are also competent now to deliver the elections we want this year.
I guess that may come as a surprise to some, because there have been issues now, concerns about whether the elections will actually come off on December 7 because of the potential threats of court action. What do you make of that?
Especially when the survey was conducted between the periods of June, July, and also rounded up in August. It actually tells a story that this was also the time that the EC was battling with when to put a CI before court and all of that. But maybe the national issues and the bigger issues on the grounds are different from what the people really consider and what they see when they go through the exercise of registration, they go through the exercise of verification, and all of that.
But I guess this would be the second research report that's given a thumbs up to the Electoral Commission in terms of confidence this year alone. Yes, and this is a much, much higher result, 66%?
Yes, 66%, far higher than the 54% that was given by the CDD in this Afrobarometer report.
All right, thank you very much, Raymond Akwa there, bringing us up to date on that NCCE report about what will be the important issues to vote on in the December elections. And before we leave you here on Election Brief, there have been some light-hearted moments with the fruit drink Calipo, and that's been trending since this month after NPP flag bearer Nana Akufo-Addo was spotted sipping the drink during a campaign. Now, since then, people have taken up the Calipo challenge, posting pictures of themselves drinking. We say goodbye for now on Election Brief, but just know that the NDC's flag bearer John Mahama will be campaigning today in the Shai Osudoku area as well as Pram Pram. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jifa Bampo. Have a good afternoon.